Hello and welcome to Early Childhood Ireland's podcast. Our podcast series features interviews and discussions on all issues relating to quality early learning and care with a range of speakers who are leaders in the areas that matter to Early Childhood Ireland members. I'm Maura Corbett and I work with Early Childhood Ireland. In this episode, I'm delighted to be chatting with Audrey Fagan. Audrey's learning story, More Than Words, was the winner in the Newcomer category at the 2020 Early Childhood Ireland Awards. And in these next couple of episodes, we're going to be looking at learning stories and the Early Childhood Ireland upcoming awards. Audrey is a teacher in the Central Remedial Clinic School in Clontarf in Dublin. She's been teaching there for 20 years, with 10 of those years in preschool. Audrey is currently studying for a master's degree in education in Maynooth University in the Freiburg department, and her ambition is to create a multisensory space that invites and responds to the curious mind and inquisitive nature of the child, a space where all children are equal. Her research includes how to develop a creative learning environment, one with adults and children following and responding to each other's lead. Audrey is passionate about documenting the learning of children with special needs, their creative abilities, and their profound connection to others. The research informs her practice and has implications for learning, pedagogy, partnerships, and curriculum. Audrey, you're really welcome. I love that focus that you have on the curious mind and inquisitive nature of the child, creating spaces where children are equal. So I'm really looking forward to hearing more about that. And you're really welcome to this episode of the podcast.
Thank you very much, Maura. Thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here to speak with you about the learning story and my setting.
So to start with, before we move into the learning story, can you tell us a little bit about the setting in which you work? It's a unique kind of setting, really.
It is, Maura. It is quite unique. We actually are quite a large setting. We have preschool, we have a primary school, and we have a post-primary school. So in all, we have over 90 students attending the setting. And I have been teaching the preschool for over 10 years. I've been in special ed or special education for over 20 years. And the school has gone from strength to strength. I think it was established maybe back in the 1950s. And at the moment, as I said, we go from 3 to 18 years of age. And the children have a physical disability as their primary disability. But lots of the children have a secondary disability as well. This could be epilepsy or autism or emotional difficulties or perhaps high medical needs as well.
So Audrey, can you take us through your introduction to learning stories and your kind of what you described yourself as your light bulb moment?
It was indeed, Maura. It was a light bulb moment. It happened at the conference that Wendy Lee was speaking at. It was a conference organised by Early Childhood Ireland, and I went along. I had read a little bit about learning stories, not really quite understanding what they were all about. So I just thought, well, I'll go along and see what Wendy has to say and see if this will fit into my setting. So on that night, she spoke beautifully about learning stories, and she had lots of examples, and it really was the light bulb moment when I sat there and I just said to myself, this is what's happening in the preschool every day. This is what I'm seeing with the children that I teach every day. And they have disabilities. They've come from various backgrounds. A lot of them, maybe this was their first chance to be involved with other children, playing with other children because of maybe they've had high medical needs. And initially for their parents, the priority was taking care of them and taking care of their high medical needs. So I just thought this is a chance for these children to show, I suppose, the rest of the education system that they are children that love to play, that they are children that love to be curious. They have so much to show others their abilities and what they can do. And on that night, I said, right, I'm going to give this a go. And it was actually quite a hard decision because like that, there are so many moments that I would try and share with parents on a day-to-day basis when they would come and pick up a child. And I'd say, oh, listen, he did this or she did this. And you'd be talking about something that you had observed and you wanted to share with the parent, and they would be delighted to hear it. And then that would be it. And they'd go home and I'd go back to the classroom. Or maybe I'd take a chance and I'd pick up the phone and I'd ring the parent and tell them about maybe some really profound learning that I had seen going on. And just because it was such a happy moment, and just to share it with the parents. And I thought, the learning story gives me a chance to actually write it down with a photograph that's there for forever, that's there to share with the parents, that's there to share with the other children in the class. And of course, as you know, children at that age love to look at photos of themselves and talk about what they had been doing. So it just, as I said, it was that light bulb moment that I decided, okay, I'm going to give this a go.
Yeah, I think that it's one of the beauties of learning stories is that it focuses on, it enables us to focus on kind of dispositions and skills and abilities, rather than, and as you described, the children that you work with have a lot of medical needs. So a lot of the focus, I'm sure, can be on their medical needs and their disability. And the beauty of learning stories is it captures the ability. And I think, that's so evident in more than words. Can you take us through the learning story and the story of that won the award, Audrey?
Yes, Maura. The learning story is about two children in the class, Timok, a little boy, and Imogen, a little girl. And they are both quite different in personality. Timok, as a little boy, he had no English at all. He was Polish, and so his speaking and understanding of English only began when he started in preschool with us. And we would use our own words to help him. We would use love signs. We would use a visual timetable to help him. And this is how he communicated. He communicated, really, it was his understanding that started. And when he started to understand some of the communication aids, then he started to really open up. And he was great at play. He was great at including everybody. But somehow he just took a liking, a really strong liking and a really strong connection to Imogen. And Imogen, although she was nonverbal, he really, really connected with her. And he would be so delighted when he'd hear her coming in with her mum. And he would shout her name, and it would be Imogen, Imogen, Imogen. And everyone had to get told that she was now arriving into the classroom door. And he would be clapping his hands and jumping around, and he was so delighted to see her. And I suppose he persisted to engage with Imogen over the weeks. And he started to get very, very close to her. And she would respond in a very, very gentle way. And at playtime, I would often have Imogen on my lap, and he would have to come and sit with her, and he would like to have her feet up on his lap. And there was just this connection. They would just go forward to forward, and literally just look at one another. Like there really were no words. There was just this connection. And I felt that, there were times where you, as a teacher, you're in the classroom, you're looking at the clock, you're thinking, okay, I think playtime needs to, maybe finish up. We need to start circle time. And I think what I learned really from Timok and Imogen was to just let it be, just to be still and just let them be, and just take a deep breath and just let them be there together. And it was one of those, I suppose, mindful moments. So that went on and on. But if you really want to learn mindfulness, I think in the presence of Timok and Imogen, that's where you would learn it. And I think that taking this time out between the two of them, it really struck me, but it also struck the other children, because while they were connecting with no words, there was all this hustle and bustle going on with the rest of the children in the classroom. And what it did was it actually drew, I suppose, the other children around towards Timok and Imogen. And it really included Imogen in everyone else's play, because they were kind of curious as to what Imogen and Timok were doing. So it started that, they'd often come over and they'd be kind of, oh, what's Timok at and what's Imogen at? And because this started to happen then, I started to include the others, and we started to sing action rhymes, and just to include everybody together. So I learned a huge amount from Timok and Imogen's connection. And the story I wrote was just one particular aspect on a particular day that we were painting. We were doing lots of red that day. We were obviously covering the colour red. It must have been close to Valentine's Day. And Imogen loved to have her feet in the paint. So that's how she would paint, and I got everything set up. Timok had finished his painting, and he was straight over to be by her side. And at that stage, he had some words, and he would be, me, help. Oh, of course, Timok, you sit down. And it was just, I thought he was just going to sit and watch, but no, he wanted to be part of what I was doing. And I think I was really, really astounded at how he copied what I was doing. As I was moving her feet through the red paint, he was just, gently pushing my hand aside. He was, after understanding this is what he had to do, and he just was helping move her feet through the paint, and all the time connecting up to her, watching her face, back down to her feet, back up to her face. And this continued right through until we had to come and wash the paint off Imogen's face. And again, he helped. He saw what I did, he watched, and then he wanted to do it and then help dry them. So it was an absolutely surreal moment. And all the time, Imogen was just absolutely just so relaxed in her chair, watching and just being there with him and enjoying the company of somebody, I suppose, her own age, really. And it was just a lovely moment. And it was just one of many that I had written about. And I'm delighted that it won.
And
Sorry, Maura.
just that connection, it sounds absolutely gorgeous. And a privilege to be able to be part of, but also what you see when you slow down. I think you described that beautifully. And were there kind of ripple effects the parents must have adored the learning story, the parents of Imogen and Timok, and how did they respond?
Yes, Maura, they were absolutely thrilled. And I think it was, what I was really surprised with was when the parents read the learning story, they were obviously delighted. This is their child, this is part of the story, that this story had won. But I think they were learning as well that those moments are actually really, really important, and really important to remember. And a photograph, yes, it does capture, but to have somebody write about what was actually going on before the photograph was taken, as the photograph was taken, and then after it. And I think they really, they absolutely adore their children. But I just felt it just slowed everything down. And the parents just saw that these moments are really important, that these are happening at home as well, with their siblings or with their relatives, and that they are very, very deep learning moments that can be captured. And I really think they valued what had been written about their children and the learning that took place, and that learning is about that connection and about relationships, and it's not always about the ABCs or the colours or the shapes and so on. And it was one of these wow moments that we now call them in school. And it was just so nice that it was captured and it's there forever.
And Wendy mentions that's the value of learning stories for parents, is that it shows that the educators get their child. That's one of the things that she says, that when you open a learning journal, that you can say, they get him, they get her, they know him or her. They're that for parents, that's part of the wow moment as much as whatever happened. That it's it is getting more the essence of their child.
Yes, and
in terms of the ripples, in the broader setting, I think you were saying when I was chatting to you the other day that it has kind of spread beyond the preschool.
It has, because of winning the awards, I had to, and I was very happy to share the whole experience with the rest of my colleagues in school on the staff. and I got to read the story, and I got to just talk about, what had inspired me to write it, and about the relationship that is there between Timok and Imogen, and all the other children in preschool. And I think with that said, then the principal thought it was a lovely idea to capture these wow moments throughout the school. So she has included, she has suggested, and I think it is going to happen this summer, but at the end of every year, every child will have an end of year school report that goes home. And we are now going to include a wow moment in every child's school report. So going from 3 to 18 years of age, that the standard report will go home, but at the end there will be a wow moment that the teacher will document on some aspect of their child's learning, or something that they've seen happen between, one or two of the children in the class, or whatever kind of wow moment stands out for them, but that every parent will see a little wow moment on the report of their child.
That's fantastic.
It
Fantastic.
is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And
just so important to, to capture those moments as much as the academic progress.
it
Because
is.
that's,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's where the learning is.
It is. And it's very much so for children who, when you're doing a checklist at the end of the year, or you're looking at the academics, some children aren't yet ready for that type of assessment. And to actually feel that you have, had a child in your class, you've seen this learning going on, and the impact that this learning has had on the class, or on the teacher, or on the child themselves, and to be able to share that with a parent, it's I know it will be deeply valued by the parents. Yeah.
Audrey, thank you so much for that really comprehensive overview of the importance of learning stories to document and assess children's learning. It's just beautifully told, and a beautiful story. And thanks to all the listeners for listening to this episode of Early Childhood Ireland's podcast. And remember, if you enjoyed the podcast, please tell your friends and colleagues, and we hope you'll join us next time.